Okay, so I was asked to make a Match 3 tutorial. This is one of those games that could be made in either a 2D or 3D environments. There's benefits to both. So we're going to go ahead and put this into a 3D environment. So first let's create the basic play area. So let's go up to Game Object, go to 3D Object, and go to Cube. This is going to be the bottom platform that everything sits upon. So let's scale this 9. That way you can fit exactly 9 cubes across, 4 to the right, 4 to the left. Makes it really easy for placement. Let's drop this down. Let's click on the main camera. Alright, let's raise it up a bit. Yeah, it looks about right there. Maybe just a little bit more so it's not cut off. Okay, so now let's start making the actual gems or whatever it is that you'll be matching. So what we're going to do is we're going to do another 3D object. It's going to be a cube. This time I'm going to make it ever so slightly smaller. That way they don't bump against each other. So let's make it like 0.98. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a material. So right click, choose create, choose material, and we'll call this red mat. Over here shows the attributes of the material. For rendering mode, make this transparent. Click on albedo, we'll make it red. And for alpha, just choose where you think will look correctly for a level of transparency. Now what you do is you take that red mat, you drag and drop it onto the cube, and let's take a look to see how that looks. So there's your transparent cube. Doesn't really look transparent because it's on a gray background. We'll just raise it up briefly so you can see how transparent it is. Yeah, so now you can easily see the grays here, the whites here, so it's definitely transparent. Might not want it to be quite that transparent, so it's your personal taste. It's just a matter of where you put this slider. And whenever you change the material, it will automatically change anything that that material is applied to. So let's call this red. We'll take that, we'll drag and drop it, and we'll put that into our asset area. So now we have a red object that can be instantiated. That is, you can call it over and over again to appear into the screen repeatedly. Now we'll just copy this. Well, actually, we can just change the name of this one. We don't need to copy it since we already made a duplicate in the asset area. Let's call this one blue. We'll create a new material. Let's call it blue mat. And similarly, we'll click on it, click on albedo, choose a bluish color, choose a transparency, and change this to transparent. We now apply that to the cube. See how it looks. It's probably a little bit too transparent, but that's okay. So now you have a blue cube. We'll rename this again. Let's call it green. Create a new mat. Green mat. Albedo. Green. Level of transparency. Rendering mode. Transparent. And apply it to the cube. Take a peek at it, make sure it looks okay. And drag and drop it. So now we've got 3 colors. Let's go with one more, and then we can build up there. If you know how to do 3 or 4 colors, then you know how to do 5, 6, 7 colors. So create material, yellow, mat, Again, change that to transparent. Apply it to the cube. Take a look at it. Okay. And now let's put the yellow down here. And now we can delete the cube from the scene. So to keep this from getting messy, let's right-click, create folder, and we'll call this materials. So that way it's easy to differentiate which one is the prefab and which ones are the materials. So go ahead, move the 4 materials into there. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and change the level of transparency. I was going to do it all at once, but let's just choose one and then repeat. So let's try like 192. It doesn't have to be exact. You can see the transparency was kind of all over the place anyways. You can just manually type in here if you want. Okay, so those are our materials, and those are the cubes. Now what you need to do is you need to be able to instantiate these cubes. You need to be able to spawn them. So let's go ahead and create, let's go up to Game Object, choose Create Empty, and call it GM for Game Master. Calling it GM isn't anything magical, it just lets you, the designer, know what you're doing with this. And you can just slide that off the screen. You don't need to actually see it. It's not going to have any sprite or models that attach to it. But we are going to attach a script. So right-click, Create, C#, and we'll call this Game Flow, because it's going to manage the game. There will be other scripts more than likely attached to the individual objects, but we'll see how that goes. So take Game Flow, put it onto the GM object. Now go ahead and double click to open it up. Now what we'll do, let's zoom in a little bit, is we're going to create variables that will store those 4 prefabs. So public transform, capital T, public transform, let's just call it red obj. Oops. Public transform blue obj. Public transform green obj. Public transform yellow obj. We save that. What's going to happen when we click on the GM object, those variables appear. Now you just drag and drop these objects onto it. So red to red, blue to blue, green to green, and yellow to yellow. So for want of a better term, you can say that the GM object is now aware of those 4 prefabs. It can now do things. It can instantiate them and position them and give them like velocity and things like that. We are going to make one change to the blocks, which I probably should have done before I duplicated them, but that's okay. So click on blue, then hold CTRL and grab the other 3. What we're going to do is we're going to add, and we're going to add physics, and we're going to add a rigid body. We want it to use gravity, that's fine. We want to freeze the rotation though. That way they don't go bouncing around. And we want to add some drag to them so they don't move too quickly. And what we'll do is we'll just put one of these back in so you can see what's going to happen. They can now drop from the top, from the top of the screen like you would expect from a match 3 game, but kind of slow. So let's do that one more time. Let's make it like a 4 drag only. Let's raise it up to the top where it would spawn normally. Okay, it's still kind of slow. So one last time, we'll change this to 3. And then put it back into the screen. That's good enough. We can always change it later if we want it to go faster. So like I said, I should have done that when I made the first one. That way it would have applied to all of them, but at least now you see that you can make changes to prefab and you can make changes to group. So it's not like you're stuck at a dead end and have to start from scratch or anything. So let's pick this up in the next video because I want to be able to give a good thorough explanation of how we're going to randomize and spawn these gems. The statement's called instantiate, and we're going to cover a bunch of different concepts. So let's pause here because this is the basic setup, and we'll pick it up in the next video.